Alright, I didn't know that YouTube videos were limited to 10 minutes. Lucky for you. Uh, here's my argument. This is a kind of a big picture thing. Here's my argument against having multiple event sources for bands, and why it's better for the whole project to have multiple stacked individual timelines that scroll simultaneously with each other at a center point date. If we go up to menu and I hit uh, F9 to bring this window over here, you see my vision for these bands, which is not a good idea after thinking about this. And consulting with a lot of different people, I've shown this to a lot of different people. Here we have the different bands, and I think the event source is unnecessary. I think all event sources for all timelines, individual timelines, should be the same. If you have a timeline of Michelangelo and you try to put in something like Leonardo da Vinci as a different event source, I mean, you're creating a whole new database. The whole thing has to be saved under a completely new name in the database. I got to create separate subdirectories, a new database for that. Not only are you adding a new band, you have an overview band potentially for Michelangelo and Leonardo da Vinci. Are those separate? Do you combine those? If you combine bands and you start messing around with these event sources in a single timeline, it turns out to be like algorithmically more complicated than it would be just to take let me close this. Then to save this here real quick. Take a timeline like Michelangelo and put it up here, and then take another timeline, which might be Leonardo da Vinci, and just stick it under here. Like if you have two windows up, you can kind of see what it looks like. So here would be timeline 1, and there'd be timeline 2. They each can have different hot zones. When one scrolls, the other one would scroll to the same center date. And you could have 3 or 4 or 5 up. One of the problems is where the placement of the legend is. Now, if you have a legend up here and you put a timeline above this timeline, this legend will tend to separate them more visually. But if you put the legends to the side, like in this one, and I got an example here, and this one's legend is on the side, and they both scrolled at the same time, then that would look pretty good. Now, I know there's situations where some legends or some timelines may not have a legend, and then there'd be a blank space here. Maybe you put advertising there. At any rate, so this is my thought. Is I've showed this to a lot of people, and when we discuss this type of thing, they don't like the idea of tabs because a timeline is interesting vertically. And tabs are a horizontal visual tool. So having multiple tabs of timelines isn't that helpful. And as Hugh pointed out last night, my friend Hugh, that if you wanted to do that, you could put multiple timelines in different tabs because all the browsers have tabs anyway. On top of that, Hugh points out, is that my important part of the real estate is vertical. And if I start putting tabs at the top, I start losing even more screen real estate. Screen real estate that's very important, which is the tabs. So that's what I'm getting from input from, and I've showed this to a couple history professors, and that's what people are telling me. Stack these up. If you do it in bands, it's not personal. It's a hassle. It's complicated. You have to rename it. It's a completely new object. If they're just stacked on top of each other, it's really simple. Also, the wait a second. Ooh. Also, the configuration of the stacked uh, timelines can be kept in like a cookie or in a database someplace where a user can log in. You can play around with different timelines, different placements, and that sort of thing on the screen. And then when he comes back and re-logs in, or you go grab his cookie, the next time he visits the website, you can present him exactly the same um, configuration of timelines and exactly the same order, locked to a center point, scrolling, that sort of thing. Also, the user can change. Any user can go in here and change zones and that sort of thing for each individual timeline without having to affect the other timelines. And that just makes the most amount of sense. Technically, visually, from a usability standpoint, etc., etc. That's just a thought after thinking about this, work on it for a while. So I got to get going. Thanks. Bye.